Okay, Sam, we're here today to talk about the college's e-learning framework. But before we get into detail of the framework, can you just define two terms that are used in there? The first is e-learning. What is e-learning?
Right, e-learning is well, describes any kind of learning activity where technology has played a constructive part. So a really simple and effective um, use of e-learning might be, for example, within classroom-based discussion, and as a catalyst for discussion, the tutor or even the student brings up a video on the smartboard or a piece of pertinent imagery, something like that. But the scope and the breadth of e-learning is potentially vast. So really interesting, where it starts to get really interesting is where students develop their own material. So the lingo is user-generated content, whereby the student might display knowledge of the subject by creating a quiz around it, so it shows that they understand the subject matter, or they might video a presentation of themselves, which is helping them to understand technology in a more constructive way, but also demonstrating their knowledge of the subject.
And blended learning?
Blended learning is a mixture of face-to-face and e-learning. So if you look at a scale of blended learning, then at the top end of it, for example, you might have a course where it's almost remote learning. So you've got the students coming in maybe one day a month, and then the rest of the time, so for lectures, the rest of the time they're taking part in online activity, be it discussion or chat or something like that. So, and accessing materials and so on. So that's where you don't necessarily see your students that often, but on full and substantial part.
Area.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we've for years the staff have been testing themselves and finding out experimenting with what they could do with technology to use it appropriately, and also questioning the efficacy of technology within learning and teaching. So what we've got is we've got pockets of people who are early adopters, who are really interested in trying new stuff, whether it works or not. And but you're right, we've got a really broad range. We've got staff who are slightly less confident, possibly don't know what tools are out there, get a bit confused with the lingo perhaps. And then we've got staff who need a really supported leg up. So the idea with the framework is in part to define a set of tools that will help us as individual practitioners and as a college as a whole gauge where we are and gauge where we need to target things like staff development, and also give individuals the power to say, well, right, this is where I see myself, and actually this is an area that I think it'd be valuable to explore within my own teaching practice.
Okay. And the framework lays out two areas that cover that. One is about some expectations and standards around our virtual learning environment, Moodle, and the other is about us as individuals, as blended learning practitioners. Can you say a little bit more about those areas?
Here's a brief overview of the Moodle standards within the college's e-learning framework. So if we scroll down to page 13, here they are. So we've got a bronze, silver and a gold standard. Now the idea is that at bronze level, we're aiming for all courses to get themselves to bronze level. I'm sure there'll be some that are at silver and possibly some at gold. The idea though is that at bronze level, the Moodle course supplements the face-to-face delivery. This is for full and substantial part-time courses, and students will have access to things like the course handbook, scheme of work, timetables, and so on. But as you move into the different standards, up to silver and gold, you find that silver, it's more integrated. It's less kind of supplementary, more integrated into the course. So there's a bit more student input there as well. You might have things like you might make use of discussion forums, for example, for particular units within the course, or have defined learning activities. And moving on to gold, well, we'll see. We've never done this before, but the idea is to give it a go in the autumn term. And exactly how we do this is not 100% sure, but at first I think I'll be going through with some key members of staff and doing an audit of courses. So that's the plan, and the idea, as I say, is to reward course teams who are making a go of it. We've never, I don't think there's enough recognition at the moment of the effort people are putting in, but also to define that minimum standard as a bronze, so that we can give students what they're entitled to. Here's a brief overview of the college's blended learning practitioner scale within the e-learning framework. So I scroll down here to page 10. Here it is. So again, we've defined 3 levels: beginner, intermediate and advanced. And the idea is that all staff are working at least at beginner level. So what we've done is defined a set of core skills that all staff need to be able to function in the college. So all staff, for example, need to be able to open, edit and save Office files, send and receive emails with attachments and so on, use the voicemail and so on. Where this applies directly to teaching staff is that besides the generic skills, there are skills specifically for teaching staff. So, for example, to be able to fill in online registers. Now, of course, there are changes afoot with the student record system and so on, so this will be adapted accordingly. But all staff need to be able to fill in registers and use a smartboard at a basic level. And by basic level, that's defined in here as being able to show and navigate the internet and other programs, and to save and export notebook files. Then we've got a section on Moodle there. And we're saying that all staff need to be able to access and structure a Moodle course, upload files, and to use the eLearn resource site, essentially. So the further up you get the scale, or the levels rather, you're beginning to experiment a bit more. You're enhancing a Moodle course through maybe things like RSS feed, which bring content in from other sources, embedding video, and experimenting with and adapting learn materials or things that you can source from the web, and also using tools to enable you and students to check learning. So this is the idea with the scale. And then up at the advanced level, you're confident and experimental, and at this stage you'll be, for sure, you'll be sharing your experiences with others, I think we've got that in the scale there, and also contributing to the online forums to support colleagues to use e-learning themselves. So this is where you're at the top of your game.